I'd like to call this public hearing to order. This is a public hearing held pursuant to legal notice issued to the three cable providers for the town of Southborough. A legal notice stating the following appeared in local newspaper on 2 occasions and was mailed directly to the providers. The notice states, "Please take notice that the Southborough Cable Television Committee, as designees of the Board of Selectmen of the town of Southborough, Massachusetts, issuing authority for a cable license under Mass General Laws, Chapter 166A, will hold a public hearing on April 3rd, 2019 at 7 p.m. The public hearing will be held in Townhouse, 17 Common Street, Southborough, Massachusetts. The purpose of the public hearing will be to determine whether to renew a cable television license for Verizon, Charter, and Comcast. All applications, reports, statements, and license drafts to be considered at the hearing that constitute public records under state law are available for public inspection during regular business hours and for reproduction at a reasonable fee. Members of the public are invited to attend and be heard on the topic. A, whether the current cable operators are in full compliance with their currently existing cable licenses, and B, what are the town's future community-related cable needs. I'm going to make a part of the record as Exhibits 1 and 2, the copies of the notices that were printed in the Metro West Daily News on March 19th and March 26th, as well as return receipts for the notices that were mailed to Comcast and to Charter. We're still awaiting a receipt from Verizon. Before we go any further, first of all, for those of you who are interested, at the back table, there are copies of the licenses of the current licenses of the three providers, as well as a copy of the questionnaire that we put out earlier, well, late last year, and a summary of the results of that questionnaire, as well as the budget that we're going to be discussing tonight. So please feel free to avail yourself of those. Before we get into the details of this, I want to provide some background on what we're dealing with. So the town currently has 3 licenses. There are 3 cable provider licenses with the town. As you see, Verizon is the one uppermost in our mind. It expires in about 6 weeks. As you can see, they have the lion's share of the market. Charter's expires in 2020. They have a little less than 20% of the market, and Comcast has a very small market share, and theirs expires in 2021. This hearing will address the budgets for all 3 providers. The licenses mainly cover 2 main areas. First are the revenues that the cable providers pay to the town, which the town then pays to Southborough Access Media. I should note that these charges are passed along to the customers. So customers pay this money. This is not coming out of the profits of the cable providers. So the revenues are in 2 major forms. There's an amount that goes for the operating expenses, and there's an amount that goes for capital expenses. There's also a very small license fee that they pay. The licenses also contain service standards in terms of how quickly the providers have to respond to complaints, how quickly they have to resolve issues, that sort of thing. It's important to note that the licenses do not cover pricing for the packages that the cable providers offer. The licenses don't cover channel selection, and they don't cover non-cable TV services. The committee was formed, I guess, last summer, and this goes through the process that we've used to try to determine what issues, if any, are out there in the community with regard to cable television. And the first thing we did, as I said, was we put out a survey between mid-October and mid-November. And I'll make that survey Exhibit 5 for the record. And then next, as Exhibit 6, there's a summary of the survey results that you can look at. You see that we're having a public hearing. Prior to the public hearing, at the end of January, the committee made a presentation to the Board of Selectmen with regard to the issues we're talking about tonight, and most particularly on the what we hope to be able to negotiate with the cable providers, and got the board's approval. Just quickly on the results of this survey, we received 86 responses in paper and digital form, and people seem fairly well satisfied with quality of the services they're getting, a little less so on the equipment quality and on the service. And importantly, 68% of those who responded said they watch SAM at least some of the time, and of those, 86% watch local governments. So that's good to hear. So that completes the background. At this point, I'd like to ask counsel for the committee, Bill Hewig, to give us some sense of what the legal framework is in which we're operating. So, Bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening, members of the Cable Advisory Committee and members of the public. As you've already noted, the purpose of the public hearing is set forth under the federal cable statute, and that is to determine the towns, to assist the selectmen as the issuing authority in determining the town's future community cable-related needs. And those needs can include funding and also non-monetary features of the license, as you've pointed out, such as, for example, service standards and also senior discounts and those sorts of things. Also, as you pointed out, and it probably comes as a disappointment to many people, the things we can't negotiate for are often the things most people are most anxious to change, and that is rates, which are controlled by the market because we have a competitive environment here in town, and also programming. That's also under FCC policies and regulations to be determined by the market and not by the issuing authority. So the purpose of the public hearing is to assist the issuing authority and their representatives, the cable committee, in determining the town's future community needs, and also to help the issuing authority determine whether the 2 or the 3 cable operators are in compliance with their current license. The public hearing is a requirement of Massachusetts state law. It's the only legal requirement we must meet before we grant a renewal license, or before the selectmen grant a renewal license. Surveys aren't required, business plans aren't required, but a public hearing is required. And the purpose of the public hearing is to give the public an opportunity to be heard in the ascertainment process that's conducted prior to the cable committee concluding their work, negotiating a license, and reporting it out and recommending it to the selectmen for execution. So it's a very, very important public function, and it allows the cable committee and the selectmen's representatives to hear what residents of the town have to say and to take it into consideration for their deliberations. That concludes my remarks, so it'll be in order, Mr. Chair, for me to turn it back over to you, and you can continue with the hearing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hewig. At this point, I'd ask Terry Underwood and Caitlin Willis from Southborough Access Media to come up and make a presentation on the services that SAM provides, and to go through the budgets that we're going to be seeking in our negotiations with the cable providers.
Ew, I need a little step stool. Thank you to Barry, Kathy, and Will for all of your work on the Cable Committee. My name is Caitlin Willis, and I'm here with the incredible staff, Terry Underwood, passing out some sheets over there, and Trevor Dillman, setting up the laptop. And the dedicated SAM board Warren Polly, Brian Green, Neil Rossin, thank you. And I want to thank everyone that took the time to come out tonight to support SAM. It means so much to us and to public access. We have been asked by the Cable Committee to discuss SAM programming and the proposed budgets and projects for the next 10 years. SAM covers meetings, programs, and events that fall under the public, educational, and government, AKA PEG categories. Trevor put together an impressive video featuring a slice of what has been covered by SAM, staff and volunteers. Terry will explain in more detail the programs, meetings, and events covered and produced by SAM, and a little bit of the production process. Thank you, Terry. Set that up.
Hi. First of all, thank you so much for everybody for coming. And those of you who can't come, thank you also, because I see you waving in the parades. I try to get you to wave, to smile, and to engage, and that's what we do. So a little bit about what we are, who we are, but big picture first. So local cable stations exist all around the country in different sizes or capacities to serve their communities. And they work to engage the communities, to show what's going on. And it's, I feel, to highlight the best. And so the FCC is involved in terms of, well, rates are going to be, there were laws set a long time ago. Our bills reflect a small fee that fund what we do. But then closer to home, we do what we can to keep everything going. And a lot of that is through a volunteer effort. And we just love what we do, so we want to share what we do. And so the video that Trevor has put together is a tiny snippet of what we do. So it's much more than just hitting a button to record. It's adjusting the audio and lining people up, lining cameras up. You can't predict the weather. There's so many things that happen, so you just have to learn to go with it. But within the community, it's not just the government meetings. There are parades, there are events. I work regularly with the senior center, with the schools, things that are going on, the library. Thank you so much. I selfishly have a lot of fun at some of these presentations that go on and have learned a lot. I go back, I edit them, and add music, add slides, add whatever I can. And then these videos live on forever on YouTube, but I make them available to whoever else is interested. So in that effort, all these different groups of people, all these different age groups, my goal is to connect the dots. You're all the dots, you are the community, and I hope to connect more of you. So with that, go take it away. So what you're seeing here is there are food trucks. That was the Kane Award. That's some monks doing a sand mandala. Some of these don't need any explanation. Bands, summer concerts, things that happen, and I'm working hard to get people to let me know when things are going on so we can work our best to arrange coverage. We can't always do it. We don't always have that ability, but we really work hard. That was the Delmen's Barbecue at the Senior Center. So you are the stars, you are the dots in the community. You make all of this happen, and I thank you for that. And it is absolutely a team effort, whether it's from the Cable TV Committee, from the SAM Board, my boss, Trevor, and if we're doing things right, you don't see us, that it's smooth. And I just want to brag for a moment. I think I see one of my students in there. She's in the audience. That's something that we do at Trotter as well. We have a class of 7th graders who are coming in and learning how to run the studio. So it's out there, it's available. Come learn. Thank you.
Thank you to have Trevor for producing that and Terry for going over programming. I would like to discuss the proposed 10-year budget that is broken into 2 5-year budgets and future projects. This first slide, this teeny little example of the 5 years of the operating budget. And then we quickly go to the second page. It's a close-up of one of the years. The operating budget we have proposed is similar to what we have now, except it includes money for hiring more SAM staff to focus on producing education programs and events and training members. The 2 5-year capital budgets on the third page, third slide, includes maintaining, updating, and replacing production equipment and creating a remote studio similar to the setup in this room with the rack over in the corner, robotic cameras, the projector, mics, speaker system, in one building in Southborough. I'd love to put one at the senior center, at the library, Trotter, the public safety building, but it makes financial sense to choose one location for this contract, this 5-year contract. There are also a few other items in the capital budget, like a piece of equipment that will enable SAM to stream live from out in the field, and software with a collection of images, clips, and music that SAM would include in productions and original programs. We have asked the Cable Committee to negotiate with Verizon and Charter to connect the library and the public safety building to our network so we're able to go live from those locations, as well as Trotter, the townhouse, and the senior center. Thanks again for everyone that came out tonight and everyone that watching at home. And now I turn it back to Barry.
Thank you, Caitlin and Terry, and I was remiss in not thanking the SAM board and all the people at SAM who have been outstanding partners in this process. I think they've all worked hard, and I'm very pleased with the product that we've come up with, and optimistic that we'll be able to get SAM what they need to provide the services that benefit everyone in town. So thank you for that. At this point, I'd be happy to open up for any public comments or questions regarding SAM or the process or whatever. Mr. Stivers.
My name is Sam Stivers. I love the acronym, so thank you. I am town resident for 20-plus years, have served on a number of boards in town, and I just want to reemphasize the importance of what SAM does in terms of a variety of aspects of the town, not only sort of the government recording of meetings and so forth that I think has actually generated much better behavior on the part of many boards, given that they are now on video and people tend to be a little more careful, which is, I think, a real plus. And also transparency in terms of giving the public an opportunity to see what goes on in terms of a lot of the permitting boards that used to be sort of mysterious to people. Now it's there, people can watch that, and I think that's a huge plus. And the other important aspect is simply the reinforcement of the social fabric in town to provide insights and communication around a variety of things that happen in town. There are a number of wonderful programs that occur, and I think SAM provides coverage of those kind of things and communicates that to people who may not be aware of those things, and it gives an opportunity for people to understand and participate more in a variety of things. So I would urge you to figure out whatever we need to do to push the carriers here to support the kind of initiatives that we've just heard about going forward. And I think as technology evolves, I think the SAM functions are going to become more and more important as far as being able to use communication and various other kinds of technologies going forward to inform the public, motivate the public, and maybe even do crazy things like improving voter turnout at elections and town meeting and so forth, which has been a frustration for many years, given that we're spending about $50+ million a year, and relatively few people seem to be directly involved in that. So I think that would be a real plus for democracy as well. So again, I greatly appreciate what Sam has done, and I urge you to reinforce the need for additional resources to expand in some of these kind of ways. And finally, I apologize that I have to get to another meeting, but I'm delighted I was able to get my 2 cents worth in here, and look forward to watching Sam for extended period of time. Thank you.
Thank you very much for making the time to be here. Appreciate it. Anyone else?
Hi, my name is Beth Mello, 14 Winchester Street. I run the blog mysouthborough.com covering news and events for the town, and I really wouldn't be able to do my job a tenth as well if it wasn't for Sam. So the community events are great and I love it, but I rely on them for their coverage of the public meetings. And I have to say that as time has gone on, I've been doing this since 2013, and the local media has increasingly cut the amount of attention they give to Southborough. And what Sam does is allow, as the other Sam referred to, transparency in government. It's not just that I can watch the videos and see what's going on in town committee meetings that I wouldn't be able to make it to or spend as much time at. It's once I've covered it, when there's something that comes up or when I point out that a meeting is coming up, people are able to look for themselves and see for themselves what's going on that they otherwise might have missed. They can't make it to a meeting, or they just didn't realize something was going to be covered that concerns them. Now they know. And I also want to give them a shout out for how great they've been when a meeting comes up and there's suddenly, there's only 48 hours notice that often the town has to give on meetings. And so sometimes these things come up sort of short notice, a meeting they weren't counting on having to cover, or there are two meetings at once and both have issues that residents care about. And I've witnessed them, virtually witnessed them scrambling to make that happen, to cover it so that people can have access to government transparency, and I really appreciate it. And I also brought my daughter up here because, as was referenced, she's a student, and I wanted to give her a chance to talk about the Trotter program. Just tell them about your experience. This is Cassie Mello, 14 Winchester.
So it's been very fun to be part of it. We get to learn a lot about how to read it, and that made me realize that that's what I want to do when I grow up. So just thanks a lot for that. I don't know, it's a big part of the community, as what they were saying, and I hope that they'd be able to keep offering the programs at Trotter.
Thank you very much. Mr. Donovan?
Hi, I'm Ryan Donovan. I'm the library director for the Southborough Library. I started in May of 2014. I met Caitlin my third day on the job, which was my very first candidates night, which is one of the biggest events that we do annually. We frequently get feedback that people can't attend the night we pick for multiple reasons, but everybody loves the fact that the program is now filmed by Southborough Access Media and can be viewed before the election. So I cannot understate the value that they provide for residents and for voters, but also we can always go back and we can see prior programs as we're trying to involve different community members, get more people involved. To date, Access Media has filmed and produced 77 library programs, which averages, since I started, more than one a month. So that's, with all that they do with public meetings, I think is amazing. They really should be applauded. They also came to the library for multiple sessions several years ago and trained staff on use of the equipment. We have a volunteer, Hal Keys, who was trained, and he has filmed several library programs. Selfishly, I don't get to be able to attend a lot of selectmen meetings or other sort of board and committee meetings that are relevant to my job. The fact that they're filmed by Southborough Access Media helps me stay informed. And I would just encourage everybody to support them, and what they do is just so, so valuable. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Claire Reynolds, 104 Main Street. I would like to speak just on behalf of my particular involvement and interrelation with Sam. I have been on a variety of committees during my 40-some-odd years of living here in town. This was before Sam even existed. A few things. As I said, I've been on a variety of committees, but I'd like to speak specifically to a couple things. One is, for those of us who really have a strange hobby of watching government meetings, particularly if you can't attend them, okay? One of the things that Sam provides is the capability to be able to go back and replay parts of a meeting where maybe what was being discussed was not really that clear. So for a clarification purpose, it's very, very helpful. I was on the Southborough Economic Development Committee for 3 years, and Sam worked very, very well with us in terms of taping certain things. We recently had a live broadcast in February, which dealt with the Main Street project, which was a very good update. We actually had 25 people in attendance here in the room, which was great. And then we were also able to say, well, if you missed it, not a problem, you can catch it on Sam. One of the things that has not been brought up tonight was the fact that Terry, and I don't know if anybody else has been involved with this, is now in the process of going out and interviewing some of the businesses. So from the standpoint of trying to have a whole shop local theme, which is one of the things that the EDC is working on, having these interviews with local businesses is excellent. And I know that this is a staff that they're stretched pretty thin, the way I understand it. I don't know, I haven't really looked into that, but that with a limited staff, they have covered a lot. One other point is, for those of us who send out updates to our committee members, the advantage that Sam provides is that you can reference a particular part of a meeting in your email. In other words, fast forward to 35 minutes into the presentation so that they don't have to watch the whole thing. So that's another thing. There are people, as Ryan said, who can't attend the meeting. There are a lot of nighttime meetings, particularly either if you have kids or if you're a senior who doesn't like to drive at night. Being able to watch these nighttime meetings, whether it's live or on demand, is a really good advantage of Sam. So I'm sure there's a lot of things that I have left out, but if there's anything that you folks need from the standpoint of trying to rally up whatever it is you need to support this, I think that for the few of us who are here tonight and have supported it, would have triple, quadruple support out in the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Hal Keese, and I'm a trustee from the Southborough Open Land Foundation. And I'd just like to say that I think the Access Media has filmed many of our programs. I believe you're doing one tomorrow night, right? Okay, on invasive insects. And we're very grateful that we're able to bring our programs, which we think are important to the community, to a larger audience, the people who just can't make it that night. And from a personal point of view, I think I'm probably the board member who's worked most closely with Trevor and Caitlin and Terry, and so I simply can't think of any people could be more helpful in any way than they have been to me and to our group. So I just simply like to thank them and let you know that how helpful and willing they are to try to accommodate all our needs. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Paul Desmond. I'm currently chairman of the Southborough School Committee, and I'm also on the Regional School Committee, so that's kind of what I wanted to speak to here. And I too couldn't say enough good things about Sam. I've been on the school committee now for about 8 years, and you go to meetings and it might be different faces. Some members can't make it, but the one constant is always Sam, and usually Terry. And it's just, I think, invaluable because it's interesting reading your survey to see how many people say they watch government meetings, because there certainly aren't that many people in the audience at the government meetings. So it's obvious that it's of value to people. Anecdotally, I know people have come up to me and said, "Hey, I saw this meeting." I'm like, "You did?" And it's just great that they have access to that, especially as was just mentioned online. You can go to just a certain point of the meeting that's of interest to you. I know members use it. If they can't make a meeting, they'll go back and watch it, so that's valuable. It's also a historical record. I mean, as somebody said earlier, these things live forever. And that came up just recently when we were in the process of hiring a new superintendent. It just so happens I was one of the chairs involved with running that meeting, and we were trying to remember how we did it the last time, which was 4 or 5 years ago. And the superintendent's executive assistant dug up the tapes from the meeting that it happened at, and we saw exactly what we did before and basically copied it so that we knew we were spot on. As was mentioned, the studio at Trotter is fantastic. I mean, it was great that we were able to make that agreement where Sam was housed at Trotter, because we figured, it would be a benefit to the students. It's great to hear that's happening, and I expect it's only going to get better. Having those opportunities for the kids. What else? Overall, looking at the budget, it seems modest to me for what they do. And I think it's a small price to pay. I don't know if it's within your purview. I know the FCC is looking at these fees and, trying to possibly take away the funding. And I hope there'd be a way to negotiate with the providers to just fund them anyway. So, thank you.
Thank you. And just to put the budget numbers in context, so the capital amounts that we're seeking are fairly comparable to what are in the current licenses. Where there would be somewhat of a change is the operational funding. We currently get, Verizon pays, all the providers pay 4% of gross revenues. We're asking to increase that to 5%, which is the statutory limit. That's the most you can get. So we don't think the requests are in any way unreasonable. And particularly as we're seeking to broaden the services that SAM provides and do even more for the community, we think, particularly with all the testimony we've heard here tonight, we think we've got a very strong case to make on those grounds. So, anyone else? Please.
I'm Marguerite Landry, 134 Deerfoot Road. I'm on the Library Board of Trustees and also on the Board of Youth and Family Services and also on the Master Plan Committee. And I can't communicate to you how enormously valuable Sam has been to this town. I can't even imagine how we operated before it was here. And I know all the residents are very, I can't say that, attached to the same people. The library runs programs, Youth and Family does it too, and we rely on Sam to get the information out, especially for people who are working and can't go to the meetings or have childcare issues and go to the meetings. Anyway, I just wanted to put in my 2 cents and say how enormously grateful we are to people who would stay through an entire town meeting until 11 o'clock at night.
Thank you very much. Sir.
Hi, my name is Arthur Bergeron. I'm an outlander. I don't live here in Southborough. I live in Marlborough. I do work with Doug Peck, who's a local resident on a show here. My picture was on the screen for about a half a second during that presentation, because I do nothing but work with seniors, and I think one of the greatest and most important aspects of a cable show is that it allows people to stay involved in the community who simply can't get out of the house, and those are a lot of my clients. I do nothing but elder law. So I think it's a really important thing. I want to mention, though, just one other aspect which I've really come to appreciate, kind of looking at this globally, is the role of cable over the next 10 years in terms of allowing people to actually see what government is doing when print media is evaporating, is just getting more and more important. I do a lot of work in Marlborough also as an attorney, and I'm at the city council meetings a lot. I remember 40 years ago, when I was practicing earlier, we would go to these meetings. There'd be 4 print media journalists at those meetings. The Telegram, the Gazette, a couple of locals. I was recently at a public hearing on a major apartment project that's happening in Marlborough, actually fairly close to Southborough. There were 0 print media reporters at that meeting, you know. So for citizens to still have the ability to know what's going on, cable is going to become increasingly important. I just want to kind of segue. I'm on the cable committee actually in Nantucket, where I also do a show, and we're having the same discussion. They're renewing. They only have one provider. It's way the heck out there, right? So it's Comcast. But one of the things they're talking about is actually looking for funding as part of that renegotiation to start a news program, because they realize that in the absence of that in the future, there will be no place where two sides, other than actually the watching of a meeting, where two sides of an issue can be discussed in a way that is comprehensible to people. Cable's going to be the only way, you know, unless it's social media. Oh my God, you know. So I think it's really important. I think it's wonderful what your folks here are doing. I think it's just terrific. But I'm just going to I'll just mention one other thing. Once again, because of my kind of with my cable committee hat on from there, one of the things that we're doing is really actively going to the provider and saying, acknowledging that we understand, as they understand, and as you understand, that their business is shrinking as people are unplugging, and that they need a way to be preserving their own customers. SAM is one of those ways. That is a product that cannot easily be replaced by internet streaming. So it could very well be, if your provider is looking for a community or communities to invest in and provide, so that they can provide examples to people, right, of how cable can be a value added that they can't find in other media forms. That could be a really useful thing, just as an observation. But I think the folks here just do a great job on their programming. It's a really important service. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming. We appreciate it. Anyone else? Brian Shea from the Board of Selectmen was unable to make it, but he did give me a statement. I'd like to read at least part of it into the record. He said, "SAM provides a vital service to our community, and it would be harmful to the people of Southborough to see SAM services reduced due to limited funding. SAM's commitment to governing local government and board and committee meetings has increased over the past several years, and their efforts have been rewarded with increased viewership. Your committee's recent survey results show that over 2/3 of Southborough households watch SAM, and 86% of those who watch local government. The services that SAM provides have become the norm that a large number of individuals in town have come to expect and will continue to expect moving forward. SAM services result in increased participation in local government, which is something the town of Southborough is committed to. Either by watching live meetings from home or by watching recorded meetings at times more convenient, people become informed." And I'd like to make the budget Exhibit 6 in the record and Mr. Shea's statement as Exhibit 7. Anything else to come before the committee at this time? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you very much, all of you, for coming. We appreciate it.